Good morning, everybody. It is Friday. It is the day before the weekend. Um, Hopefully, everyone's doing well. Um, Got a chance to briefly speak to mom this morning, and she's feeling a lot better. I managed to take down I don't know if met, how many of you have had an experience with a cooling blanket. I found a fairly inexpensive one that I took down there because I wanted it to sleep and left it with her. And she said it helps her sleep a lot better. So that's good. That's a good thing. Um, so anyway, just want to give you an update on how she's doing. She's doing fine this morning. Today, however, we are going to be discussing the man called Barabbas or Barabas. Um, this individual has been spoken about widely. Golly, it's one of those days. Widely among Christian content creators and pastors and stuff like that. Um, More so along the lines of the exchange from the perfect Christ to the imperfect Barabbas. Um, but for me, there came a different point of view from this story, and I wanted to dive into that specifically. Um, so we're going to read the story first, and then we're going to go into the take I have on it. It's not like groundbreaking by any means, but um, I was quite encouraged by the thought process being dropped on me. So let's read it real quick. Um, we are in Matthew, okay, Matthew. So you know Matthew 27. Now the feast. Now at the feast, the governor was accustomed to releasing to the multitude one prisoner whom they wished. And at that time, they had a notorious prisoner called Barabbas. Therefore, when they had gathered together, Pilate said to them, "Whom do you want me to release to you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called Christ?" For he knew that they had handed him over because of envy. I want to stop right there. Um, if you read this, the story does not seem to suggest that the people suggested Barabbas. It seems to suggest that the governor picked Barabbas for them to choose between Barabbas and Jesus. For a long time, myself, I have always thought that the people were given a choice of who should you release, and they said Barabbas. And so then the person said, okay, fine, I'll give you Barabbas. But that's not the case. The real situation is Barabbas was a notorious prisoner. The governor knew this and offered Barabbas as a counterpick to Jesus. What I believe he was doing was giving them an option so extreme that they would end up picking Christ to be released. Because here's the thing, I'm going to give you two options. One of the most notorious, crazy, off the wall person, or Jesus. I mean, okay, so you're envious of the man, and okay, you don't like it. But compared to Barabbas, people, you know you would pick Jesus, right? You're gonna pick Jesus, right? I would think. While he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent to him, saying, "Have nothing to do with that man, with that just man, for I have suffered many things today in a dream because of him." But the chief priests and elders persuaded the multitudes that they should ask for Barabbas and destroy Jesus. The governor answered and said to them, "Which of the two do you want me to release to you?" They said, "Barabbas." Pilate said to them, "What shall I do with Jesus, who is called Christ?" They said to him, Let him be crucified. Then the governor said, Why? What evil has he done? But they cried all the more, saying, Let him be crucified. When Pilate saw that he could not prevail at all, but rather that the tumult was rising, he took water and washed his hands before the multitude, saying, I am innocent of the blood of this just person. You see to it. And all the people answered and said, His blood be on us. Listen to this. His blood be on us and on our children. Now comes the crux of why I wanted to approach this topic. I see that last statement twofold, and I don't think anybody, I have not, I'm going to say, I don't think, I have not heard anyone else come away with this take. And I'm not saying I'm so special. I'm just saying I see something that I don't think I've heard anybody else find. And I'll tackle this first, and then we'll go back to the person Barabbas. Now, watch me. It says, I am innocent of the blood of this person, this just person. You see to it. And all the people answered and said, His blood be on us and on our children. Now, on the surface, it's saying, okay, cool. We'll take the blame for his death. However, the phrasing of it is quite interesting because they don't even, I don't think they realize that they're saying something that he himself has said, that his blood was spilt to be on people. Like it was a covering. I don't think they've realized at this point that they're saying something so profound, even though they're saying it from a position of hate and anger. His blood be honest. Yes, exactly. Exactly. The thing is, his blood will be on you. And that's exactly why he was dying, so that his blood could be on you. I understand that they're saying, okay, the blood are on my hands and I'm responsible for his death. That is also true, 100% true. But they didn't realize they were saying something so profound that would eventually affect every human being after the death of Christ. That because of his death, his blood indeed would be upon everybody. And it is still a twofold situation now. You deny him, the blood is on your hands. You accept him, the blood is on your hands. You get what I'm saying? Like it's a twofold statement. Even then, when they said it, it's true. And when we do it today, it's still true. There are people who reject him, blood is on their hands. But when you accept him, the blood is still on you. The difference is one is from guilt and one is to freedom. One is from guilt, one is to freedom. And that, I think, is probably where the most crazy part for me came in. I see here a interesting dilemma put before the people when Barabbas was issued to them. Okay? So I think we need to look at who Barabbas really was. Okay. I went ahead and tried to find a um, a list of what exactly Barabbas was in prison for, and I couldn't really find a whole lot about him outside of the fact that he was just a notorious individual when it comes to crime and criminal activity and stuff. Um, If I were a guessing man, I would say that his deeds to be considered notorious would more than likely have to include some form of either murder, um, uh, theft, um, and possibly even violence towards women, children, even. For him to be notorious, where they couldn't even list what he was, would tell me quite a bit that he and probably his crimes probably encompassed quite a large amount of crimes. Um, if this were a modern day example, it would kind of be the person that his crimes were um, of the ilk that you did not get to, almost like sealed files. Okay, like sealed files. They're so bad we can't just let you see them because there are some pretty egregious things in there. So why would the crowd choose Barabbas? And why is it that Barabbas was the one brought forward? Why would that the timing? He's the one in prison. He was the one that Pilate chose to bring and say, choose between. The question then becomes the why. At least it came to me. Why would it be Barabbas? And here's where I think from other perspectives that I've heard that is different from the one I see. For a long time, I've heard in the church when we talk about Barabbas, um, it has been this idea that uh, someone so vile was released to be free, and Christ died so that even the worst of us can be free. That's what I've always heard. And you can tell me if I'm wrong if you have not. Maybe you've heard that too, where you hear people say Barabbas represents the worst possible person, and bam, he was released for Christ to die as a sort of a symbol that his blood will cover even the most vile sinners. And if you've heard that, please tell me. Um, I've heard that on more than one occasion. In fact, multitudes of occasions, I've heard that statement that the whole symbology of Barabbas is because of how wicked he was, and the fact that God would, allow Barabbas to walk for the sake and to show us that his blood will cover even the most crazy person. However, while that I have no doubt that that's true, um, I see things a little bit more than just that. Um, the person of Barabbas, when it comes to the comparison of Christ, I don't see it as a this or that. I'm trying to find the best way to say what's in my head here. Um, Barabbas was the kind of person that not very many people can say he didn't do it. Okay? Everybody knew what Barabbas was. We are not going to talk about the fact that they picked him over Christ. We knew that. That's not the topic necessarily right now. That's not the angle I'm coming from. I'm coming from the angle of what Barabbas knew of himself and what the people knew of Barabbas. Heck, what even Christ knew about Barabbas. Barabbas's deeds were not hid in terms of they knew he was a vile individual. Even Pilate knew in his own heart that there is no way he should be free when compared to Christ, right? The people in the crowd knew that Barabbas was worthless. Everybody around in that time had no equivocations about what and who Barabbas was. Yet and still, he was released from the penalty of death and was instead handed to be freedom, and then Christ was put to death instead. I am not going to harp on the fact that he um, was given his chance and all that stuff, and even the most vile of us can be forgiven. I'm going to look at it like this: Barabbas' state was known. Today, we don't want to look at our state. We want the gift that Barabbas was given, because it was a gift, without the recognition that Barabbas was given. We, unlike Barabbas, don't want to own up to what we did. We don't want to see ourselves. In fact, we genuinely believe that we're not that bad. We look at the story of Barabbas and say that, hey, at least I'm not like that. I am not that bad, but even if I were, at least Christ would forgive me. The problem here is everyone is just as bad as Barabbas because you're getting the same punishment. Every single human being without Christ dies and goes to hell. That is your punishment. Your record is no different than Barabbas when it comes to the outcome of your life. You were supposed to be executed. You were supposed to be on the chopping block. And it does not matter how vile you see yourself or don't see yourself. The reality is you are just as vile as Barabbas. We are. By our very nature before Christ, we were deserving of death. Today, however, we don't want to look at ourselves as though we are Barabbas. Because look, let's be honest, okay? We can be honest. We can be straight with each other. How many of us have said, at least I'm not, hey, look, I've never murdered nobody. I'm not a pedo. Okay, I'm not one of those. I don't do this. I don't do that. Do you find yourself measuring yourself against the most wicked to see if you can be a little less wicked? Do you? I can be honest. I've done it. But if the wages of sin, not big sin, just sin, is death, then there is no comparison of yourself to anything less or more. It is one flat punishment: sin, death. Yes, the actions might be different. Okay, you may not have actionably done something against a child. You may not have actionably done something to remove someone from this earth by ending their life. You may not have done that. But do you know that there is no difference when it comes to the end of your life if a pedophile doesn't repent and a person that stole something as little as $5 from somebody doesn't repent? You know, you're both going to the same location. Did you know that if at the end of your life, neither one of those two people chooses Christ, they both end up in the exact same spot? So if Christ was chosen to die instead of Barabbas, and you look at yourself, at least I'm not like, which is what the Pharisees were doing. At least I'm not. And you heard about the publican and the tax collector. You know, you look at them and you say, wow, man, okay. There is a lesson to be learned here outside of the person of the evil that Barabbas had. And this is this: There is value in people knowing and you knowing that you were not supposed to walk free. You were not supposed to. I am not supposed to. By the nature of our crime, heinous all the way because they are against the very perfect nature of God, making it heinous. It's heinous because it's against the law of Christ. Period. Point blank. Okay. If you don't see that, if you don't recognize that it is a not just an archetype of how bad you can be, but that you are destined for death because your crimes were indeed logged, you're not going to be coming to a place of full contrition. You're not going to come to a place of full surrender because you don't have that much to surrender. You don't want to surrender that much. You don't have much to give up. I'm not that bad. I'm not like that guy. I'm not like that guy. At least I'm not. Many of us want to take the side of the Pharisees and be judging ourselves much better than the person that they're saying they're going to release. But if you notice, Barabbas didn't have anything to say. I'm going to find this here. I want to read this particular passage real quick. You'll find it familiar. Okay. I want to read from, I think, you see, Luke 18, verse 9 says, also he spoke this parable to some who trusted in themselves that they were righteous and despised others. Two men went up to the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and one a tax collector. The Pharisee stood and prayed thus with himself: God, I thank you that I am not like other men, extortioners, unjust, adulterers, and even as this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I give tithes of all I possess. And the tax collector, standing afar off, would not so much as raise his eyes to heaven, but beat his breast, saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. So let me ask you a question. Is recognizing that you're not any of those things a bad thing? No. But the comparison of better than because you haven't, there's a difference there. Is it bad to fast twice a week? No. Is it bad to give tithes? No. But when you don't consider the fact that you are just as guilty before Christ, not before the eyes of man, before Christ, just as guilty as the tax collector, you're in a worse off position, especially if the tax collector recognizes his own faults and flaws before you do. I wish that I knew what happened to Barabbas after that. I really do. I would have loved to hear what happened, what he did. Did he continue on the same path that he had been doing when he went to prison? Did he go back to prison? Did he do more deeds? Did he turn his life? What happened to Barabbas? I understand it's not consequential to the matter of Christ. I get that, but there's a part of me that wants to know what Barabbas did. I'm very curious. Because he had to think to himself, they letting me go? And this dude ain't done nothing? Part of him could have been like, yeah, okay, good. I'm good with that. But I think there's a small part of him that said, there ain't no way they just did that. I really like the way that Mel Gibson did the Passion and that scene. Barabbas didn't say anything. but there was an exchange of eye contact. And for a brief second, you saw Barabbas recognize something like, oh, wait a minute, but then turned right back around and gave his hands to the crowd and was happy that he was free. I think all too often we look at Barabbas' story as the most extreme, and we look at it like this: God will forgive even the worst sin. We'll say that while thinking of somebody else and their worst sin. Because they'll go ahead and start announcing different types of sin, the most egregious ones, and relate it to Barabbas, but they won't relate themselves to Barabbas. We never want to relate ourselves to Barabbas. We will relate Barabbas' life to the most extreme cases, but not to us. This is the only way we relate Barabbas to us. We'll say, he forgave, and I was released from my punishment, just like Barabbas. But we won't say that just like Barabbas, I was guilty of everything I could have possibly, because remember this, within the nature of sin lies every type of sin. And I mean every. The sinful nature encompasses every sin. Left long enough, you will indeed do everything. I don't want to hear anybody saying, well, my good side, my conscience would not allow me to do this. The sinful nature will do for itself every time. Every time. Don't put anything past the flesh. Do not. It already told you in the Bible that just the tongue alone can set the whole world on fire. We have this tendency as, well, some of us, I know I have before, we have a tendency to consider ourselves redeemable because we haven't done so many things. I've heard people say too, I would be probably harder for me to turn around if I were doing more crazy, evil things. It'd be harder for me to turn. Would it? Or do you not think it would be easier for you to turn around and change? Because in the doing of your vile deeds, you actually understand your vile deeds are being done? Because people know about them. When deeds are done secretly, they're a lot harder to admit that they're bad. But when they're done openly, they're a whole lot easier to say, yes, that's bad. Like Barabbas. But we don't want to take Barabbas's, ilk. We don't want to, no. We are all Barabbas. All of us. Every last one of us was Barabbas. Some still are. Some aren't anymore. But we were all at one point Barabbas. In this aspect, we deserve to be in prison, and we did not deserve to be freed. We were notorious. Our sin was notorious throughout the kingdom of heaven. It was known by every single entity in the heavens that our just place was behind bars. It was known. And still, we were freed. The unfortunate thing is many of us do not see ourselves as we truly were. And some of us will stay that way. And when things happen and you start to wonder why and why and why, you still won't look inside. You might look on occasion to one or two actions, but you will not look at how you view yourself. You'll still think to yourself, I'm not that bad. There is another verse here I want to bring up. Okay. And I think it's pivotal that we understand something about it. We're going to go to Luke chapter 12, okay? And we are going to go to, let's see here. All right, we'll go to verse 35. Let's go to verse 35. That's where I want to go to. Luke 12:35, okay? So let's start reading there. Let your waist be girded and your lamps be burning, and yourselves be like men who wait for their master, when he will return from the wedding, that when he comes and knocks, they may open to him immediately. Blessed are those servants whom the master, when he comes, will find watching. Assuredly, I say to you that he will gird himself and have them sit down and eat, and will come and serve them. And if he should come in a second watch, or come in the third watch and find them so, blessed are those servants. But know this, that if the master of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not allowed his house to be broken into. Therefore, you also be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. Then Peter said to him, Lord, do you speak this parable only to us or to all people? And the Lord said, who then is that faithful and wise steward, whom his master will make rule over his household, to give them their portion of food in due season? Blessed is the servant whom his master will find so doing when he comes. Truly I say to you, that he will make him ruler over all he has. But if that servant says in his heart, my master is delaying his coming, and begins to beat the male and female servants, and eat and drink and be drunk, the master of that servant will come on a day when he is not looking for him, and at an hour when he is not aware, and will cut him into two, and appoint him his portion with the unbelievers. That servant who knew his master's will, and did not prepare himself, or do according to his will, shall be beaten with many stripes. But he who did not know, yet committed things deserving of stripes, shall be beaten with few. For everyone to whom much is given, from him much will be required, and to whom much has been committed, of him they will ask the more. Can I ask a simple question? Do you find yourself, or do we find ourselves, not looking at ourselves in the most negative light when it comes to our stance before God outside of Christ? Do we find ourselves looking at ourselves less than in order to do less? Do we find ourselves seeing ourselves in not that much of a dire situation, so that when we look at what we are meant to do in this life, we are not required to have much, because there's not much that we were forgiven of? Instead, what we want is more blessing because we didn't do a whole lot of bad. When the reality is this, I have been forgiven of a lot, an exponential amount of things I've been forgiven, which means I should be doing above and beyond simply by the merit of what I've been forgiven of. And it should be second nature to me to do so. But we don't get there because we don't see ourselves as bad as Barabbas. So we don't have that much of a forgiveness given to us. So there's not much that God should require of us. And when you're not committed with his blood to protect and to wear it, you don't expect him to ask you of much. This is how the common Christian behaves anymore. I don't have to do a whole lot because I have not done a whole lot. I can forgive a few, but I'm not doing so bad that God had to forgive me of a whole lot. I had one or two sins. That's about it. The fact of the matter is this: Barabbas and us were no different. We did not deserve to be freed, much less to be freed and allow an innocent, just man to pay that price. But with the knowledge that it did happen, unlike Barabbas, we ought to say, thank you. Be aware that I, because of my state, was worthy of not just imprisonment, but death. And he took it. I have no limit on what he will ask of me. I have no limit on what he requires of me. But when you don't see what you've done, it's very hard to walk. When you don't see what you've done, you don't value the blood. You don't value the cross. You don't value Christianity as much as you should. You simply don't, because it's not worth anything, because you didn't pay a price. You didn't have to give up much. You're not that bad. At least I'm not that bad like that guy over there. I'm okay. I mean, I can say I'm not a child molester. I can say that. But at the end of life, without turning to Christ, both the child molester and myself would end up in the same place. Here's an even crazier part. If I decide to go and be a teacher without acknowledging what I really was before Christ, my punishment will actually be worse than Barabbas's. My punishment will be worse than somebody who just didn't accept Christ. Look, there has to be a sobering moment at some point for the church. Too many just come to Sunday and they say, I'm coming because I'm in this place and I'm a much better off than I was before. And because I've accepted Christ, I'm going to get blessings. And we come every Sunday expecting blessings upon blessings upon blessings. The blessing, I will tell you, is seeing what you were and what you no longer are. That's the only blessing you could possibly ask for. Anything past that, everybody else gets already. You don't find it weird that the people that ask for the blessings of God always go after the materialistic stuff? You ever realize that? They go after the materialistic things. You ever realize that that's what they consider the blessings of God? When the health and wealth people talk about blessing, they don't talk about the blood. They talked about gifts. They talk about things that you can get that will enhance your life. But he told you the rain will be falling, just and unjust. There are things that are given to mankind just by merit of being his creation. Everybody gets those things. But we consider them, because we're Christian, all of a sudden we deserve more or the best of the best because we're his. You already got the best of the best. The thing is, the rest of the stuff people everywhere gets. The sinner gets, the Christian gets. The Christian can get it, the sinner can get it, and all of these things you can have. No problem. Money can buy them. The one thing money cannot buy, and the one thing that you can get that nobody can take from you, and the one thing that you should value above all else is salvation. But we don't. We want salvation plus. We feel like it's Disney plus or something like that. We have salvation plus. What do you mean? Well, salvation plus everything else. I have salvation. But God, don't forget to add the car, add the house, add the wealth, add this, add the health. It's salvation plus. Ask yourself this question. As Barabbas, what do you deserve? As Barabbas, what do you deserve? I can tell you this, it's not houses, it's not cars. It's not money, it's not fame, it's not fortune. It's death. It's hell. But instead, you got freedom. But if you don't see yourself as being forgiven much, forgiveness isn't going to mean much. When you don't see yourself as being saved from a whole lot, salvation doesn't mean much. When you don't realize that Christ died for you, your life doesn't mean much. Thus it is with Barabbas. Until we start seeing ourselves as a person that everybody knows I'm worth death. But Christ won't mean anything to you. He simply won't. He'll be just another fairy tale. We'll be looking for all the things. I even saw this one video of this guy on Instagram. And the man started talking about he was 60 years into Christianity. I wish I could find it now. I'm trying to remember if I saved it as a... Let me see if I saved it. Because I might have saved it. I want to see if it's here. Because I think it's worth noting that his viewpoint really isn't much different than a lot of Christians. And that's the unfortunate part. That's the unfortunate part. Let me see if I can find the one. Because I'm sure I can. Because I want you to hear it. And the guy refuses to admit that his viewpoint on Christianity was all about what he can get. Let's see if I can find it. Hang on. Timmy Tooth. Oh, he blocked me. That makes sense. I wish I had saved it. I really did. I wish I had saved that video. Man, I'm upset now. What's his name? Maatvuum. Maatuv. Hang on. I can find it. I'm betting you I can find it because I need you to hear it yourself from somebody else's mouth. There it is. Okay. I'm going to have you hear it yourself.
No health prayers answered, no career prayers answered, no spousal prayers answered, no children prayers answered, no residential home buying prayers answered, not a single prayer answered in 60 years following Jesus Christ, Christianity, and the Bible. And now I have cancer and no home to retire in thanks to tithing. Is this what following Jesus is all about? What a freaking joke and a mistake. I don't recommend it.
And unfortunately, that is how people view Christianity. It's a gift giving party. It's a request, and I need to have it delivered. If it doesn't get delivered, he's not God. You know why he needs to answer my prayer? Because I'm worth it. I'm worth it. So you better answer my, and if you don't answer my prayer, you're not a good God. 60 years, he said. And now he has cancer, and he doesn't understand how people can still follow God because he's not getting healed. Well, God's not an ATM. He's not a loan. He's not a bank. But when you enter Christianity believing that you're worth something, you will expect a whole lot from God. And when you don't get it, God ain't real. But when you enter Christianity realizing that you don't deserve salvation, but you got it, he doesn't have to do anything more for you. Like he doesn't have to, like I keep saying, tomorrow, cardboard box side of the street. Yes, it would be a bummer because I really like a house. I would love to be living in a house. But can I really expect and say to myself, God owes me? No. He's already given me everything that matters in the end, and that's salvation. If nothing else comes my way. But all too often, people don't view Christ that way, and they don't view Christianity that way because they do not really believe they are worthy of death. They're worthy of some punishment. They're in the wrong. They're not that good of a person, but they're also not that bad. I'm not Barabbas. No, you are. we definitely were Barabbas. In any case, I hope that we can help people change their perspective. But it is still up to an individual to see who they are before Christ. If they can't, not much you can do about that. The unfortunate thing is that more and more people will look to Christ as a gift basket and a ATM and a sugar daddy kind of thing. And when it's not fulfilled, they don't need God. Well, I will admit that you don't need that God. You're still in need of God, just to say you don't want him. And if you don't want him, that's okay. It really is. You have the choice to make. But understand that the choice you're making comes with an end result. And at the end of that result, if you get it and you say to yourself, why, you should understand why, because you chose it. You chose it. It's not a braggadocio. I'm not rubbing nothing in, but it's just reality. What you choose, just understand the consequences of that choice. Pretty simple to me. Monday, we'll be talking about the crown of thorns, at least from the perspective that I got from my journey down south. Um, it's a very, like when I tell you, it was so intriguing to find that out. Mm-mm-mm. Okay, I'll do. Okay, I'm gonna help you out because I'm too excited to not say. Do yourself a favor this weekend. Okay, do yourself a favor and look this up for not just for Monday, but look it up. Okay, I want you to look this up when you get a chance. Let's see. Look up for yourself the jujube tree. Okay, look up the jujube tree or plant. Okay, that's Jujube. Okay, just look it up, go through it, and look for yourself to see specifically. Okay, what you're looking for specifically is one thing in particular, which is, where is it? Uh, Uses. Okay, look up uses of the jujube. Okay, just look. Trust me, trust me. Look it up. Jujube. That's what we'll be talking pretty much about come Monday. It is said that is the branch that they use to craft the crown of thorns. Okay. So take a gander, look it up. So come Monday, you'll have a lot to talk about with me. Because when I went to look at it, I was absolutely floored. 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 It's so cool, but I was floored. Okay. All right. Cool. So take a look at it. Trust me, you'll look it up. It's so stinking cool. Like it's so stinking cool. Like every aspect of what happened at the death of Christ, crucifixion, everything, all of it has something meaningful to it. Every aspect of it. Mm-mm-mm. Look it up. Anyway, so we'll be back Monday. Just trust me. Jujube. Look up the uses. Mm-mm-mm. That's exactly what that was exactly my statement to myself. He don't waste nothing. He don't waste nothing. He don't miss. He does not drop any balls, man. I'm telling you. Anyway, we'll be back on Sunday. I have not set up the Zoom yet. Don't ask. I have not set it up yet. It more than likely will not get set up before tomorrow. Today's a very full day. Very, very, very full day. It is ridiculously full. So more than likely it'll be after the morning tomorrow that I put it in the post section on my YouTube channel. So patience, please. Okay. But it'll more 98% it'll be there before Saturday night. Okay, cool. Love y'all, mean it. Scrolling at the bottom, you know what to do. Speak to the author about everything, and let him decide what you got to do or not do. I really appreciate all you guys' time. So yes, there will be a Savage. Sorry, true. Thank you for reminding me. There will be a Savage Patriots today, and I do believe we have a person that will fill in for Coy. Ironically, or not ironically, he is the black version of Coy. Literally, like in look, it's Black Coy. But he won't be able to start until a week from now. He just had a loss in the family. Good guy, wonderful guy. And some of you might already know who he is, but I'll save the surprise for when he shows up on the screen in the next week. So, but we will be on today, 6:30 Eastern. We'll be on here. So We'll be talking about another podcaster who doesn't seem to understand English. So we'll be talking about. Coy has some family issues going on right now that he has to pay attention to. So he's going to take a step back from the platform for a minute. He has special needs kids, and so he has also a sick wife. So he has a lot on his plate. And we've all told people this is about family first. He said, I have to step back to get my family right. And I 100%, I'm on board with it. And if he comes back, he says he's not sure how that's going to work out, but when he comes back, he's back in. So it might be 5 of us instead of 4, but we want to give Koye his space to do what he got to do for his family, because that's first. Family is first. So just so you know. So yeah, keep Koye in your prayers with that. But we'll be back 6:30 today, and then we'll see you guys Monday for show on another for the Jujubee 3 tree. Okay? Love you, mean it. Wisdom calls to you from the streets, so please, please, please find wisdom. Peace.
Hold tight the dreams, for if dreams die, rely on yourself.